Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Moviecast, episode 631. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gass, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinside,
Ahoy!
and Tony Korkanakis.
Yo, yo, yo.
Welcome, guys. Welcome,
Hello.
listeners and viewers, to 631 of the Moviecast. If you are just joining us on Twitch, we're streaming live Tuesday night starting at 8 o'clock. But we did the Gamecast first tonight due to technical difficulties / parental difficulties. But we did
One
the
and the
Gamecast.
same.
Yeah. Welcome to the episode. If you miss it live on Tuesday nights, we are following, we're always up on YouTube, so subscribe to that channel, folks. Leave us a comment over there. I know we got some new viewers. We'd love to hear from you, okay? But make sure you smash that subscribe button so you know on either channel when we start. So you'll get notified.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get notified when we post our episodes. Welcome to the Moviecast 631. This is special. This is the TV shows of 2022 for us. So we've done Moviecast. We've done the movies, best of, and worst of, or disappointing, I guess. And we've done games already. This is the final of the 2022. So we're closing the year out at this point. We do have most anticipated episodes coming up soon. We will schedule those soon and let you know. I'm not sure we're doing them next week. We might do them the week after, just because maybe cover a couple some new stuff happening, but we'll see. So, but welcome to this TV show episode, folks. If you're just joining us and you haven't watched those previous episodes, let me give you the format and what we've got. So we do this is the best of. We don't watch every show. I don't think anybody does that, but we do watch a lot of shows. Some of us. So what we do is we take our top 3 favorites. And not ranking them as the best shows of all time on TV. This is our favorite stuff, personal opinions.
Personal favorites.
Yes.
We don't watch nearly enough.
We do one disappointing and one surprise, okay? You can have overlap, but we try not to. Sometimes we cheat. So, but I'm going to kick us off. Now, there could be spoilers announced on this sometimes. We try to kind of refrain from that, but sometimes it happens. I apologize if it does, but just give you a heads up.
We'll say the title, and then
yeah,
we'll give you a chance to skip forward or whatever. But
yeah, so I want, like we did on the other episodes, it's always best to start with the worst. So disappointing. And I can't.
If this is not a 4-way sweep, I'm gonna be shocked.
I don't know. I mean, I was gonna go first. I don't think I'm gonna match up with you guys because I did a surprise.
Okay.
I did surprise disappointing, because the show was even
I'm
worse.
disappointed in you, Jim. I'm disappointed in you.
I guess. I mean, what am I missing?
I don't know. Let's hear it.
I did Boba Fett.
Okay.
Because even as a show that I expected to be bad, I didn't expect it to not even be its own thing. It's basically was a builder for Mandalorian, and I'm like, that's just what was that? I mean, that was just garbage. So I was extremely disappointed even after not having high expectations for the show. So I felt like it just, for me, that was the one I listed as my most disappointing. What did I forget? Corey, what was yours?
Well, mine. I mean, for me, Boba Fett, that guy's a douche anyway.
Sure,
I don't care about him.
He's trash.
So he has nothing.
Always was, always will be.
Oh yeah, I know.
There's another character in this universe that has been built up.
The other thing though is that the first episode was the previous year, but then most of it was 2022.
Sure.
It technically, but whatever.
Yeah,
I'm including two things that sort of bridge the year gap because that gets me to 7 things I've watched.
Anyway, I mean, it's got to be Kenobi. I mean, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It is worse. You're right.
It's not about it's just that's my opinion. I was shocked that because for me, Boba Fett is. I didn't have high hopes for Boba Fett. I didn't care too much, but Kenobi and Ewan McGregor coming back, I was really expecting way more, and it just under delivered so much that I didn't even bother watching the rest of the show after a few episodes because it was just so bad. This character should not I don't know what they were doing. Even with Boba Fett, like you mentioned, they're turning these characters that should be these heroes for us and just making them chumps. And what are you doing here?
And I do get your point. I mean, Kenobi looked horrible, and it's had a terrible story, and I didn't like the acting performance wasn't great. And at least you can say at Boba Fett, nobody really phoned it in that. There just wasn't a good story to tell.
And you got things you really wanted in that show.
Sure. So I could totally see that. You know what though? I know what you're saying, and while I was disappointed in Kenobi, I think, for me, I had both expectations were about the same. I didn't expect anything great. And maybe that was from Boba Fett itself knocking it down for me. But I wasn't expecting.
I guess I was. I was excited for Kenobi. I thought maybe they could do something.
Yeah.
And they'll learn more about Kenobi and see where they go, because he had a pretty interesting he had a few interesting appearances in Clone Wars and stuff, Clone Wars. But I think I'm getting Rebels and Clone Wars stuff here and there.
Whew.
But he does show up in the animated stuff and is really good in that, and it's like you want more from it. It's live action and they hyped it up.
Yeah.
No, they did. Like, because Obi-Wan or Kenobi, whatever the fuck it's called, is my most disappointing. Honestly, I would just say it's my most hated, because this is a fucking piece of shit series. If you like this, I'm sorry for you.
I didn't like it.
I'm genuinely sorry for you.
But you could make the same statement for Boba Fett. Like, what was good in that?
That's fine, but I had zero expectations for Boba Fett. I had zero expectations for Boba Fett because he's a fucking piece of shit character that has no depth, and they hauled his ass out and just like, look at me, Mandalorian 2.0.
Here's the thing, because my disappointing is Boba Fett.
Oh
my goodness.
Oh.
So, and the thing is, for me, is
a podcast divided.
First of all, I think these shows are almost interchangeable with
sure
disappointment and mediocrity
and
as far as like just bad Star Wars shit.
That's what I'm saying right now too. Yes.
I did Boba Fett mostly because I knew Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan kind of sucks. I know we have this revisionist history
fuck off.
That he was great. He's always sucked. He's always been just lame as Obi-Wan. So I've never liked.
Get out of
his
here.
Obi-Wan. I've never liked his Obi-Wan. No.
Get out of here with your hot take, Mike. Jesus.
It's not a hot take.
That is a hot take.
He has been saying he hasn't liked it.
I will say the best.
Obi-Wan sucks.
The best version of Obi-Wan.
I don't agree with you, Mike. You're entitled to your opinion. I don't think he was terrible. He's not the worst thing in the movies. It's not the best thing, but
and it's the same thing in the show. He's not
might be
the worst thing in this, but I don't expect a prequel era story to be good. So
there's a lot of good
that's
prequel.
About to change here. That's about to change. So I've got more on my list. Not
for Boba Fett, we talk about how he's built up and there's no substance behind him. Going in, I'm like, all right, they're finally going to give him substance and like the real, like sort of mainline-ish Star Wars thing. Have Boba Fett do something, make him be the badass that we want him to be. And he comes out and he's just completely impotent. He's not even a bad guy anymore. He's sucks. Yeah, he's just nothing good, and it's just this boring, like, I want to be a crime lord but not do crime, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
you suck.
It was so I think that was more disappointing because they had an opportunity to sort of give legitimacy to this character.
I can understand in both shows they had opportunities to make these characters great.
Can I go back to ranting about Obi-Wan because I wasn't even near done?
No, go for it. You go ahead. This is
I don't know. Everyone just interrupted me. Was like, go. It's like, okay, Obi-Wan is a fucking piece of shit. Like, I cannot believe that series. Like, anybody at Disney should be ashamed of them fucking selves for that fucking series. Like, it was garbage from start to finish, with like maybe one battle scene being okay towards the last episode or something like that. But like every character in this series is fucking stupid. Like absolutely fucking stupid. I don't even hate like Small Leia that much, but God, like everybody just becomes dumb in this show. And it looks cheap. It looks awful. And I even posted something about Andor, which I'm assuming we'll talk about very shortly. But like it is night and day difference between like, wow, you watch this Andor and it's like, holy crap, this looks amazing. It looks really good. The world building is great. You get to see a lot of different varied planets and stuff like that. And you get Kenobi, where it's like
generic world. Yeah.
Generic ass world, you know, with the fucking
looks
power
terrible.
Backdrop,
yeah, that looks
like,
terrible.
You know, and then Obi-Wan's just running away from fucking Darth Vader. Darth Vader, you know, sees one flame wall, which he was just shown previously extinguishing fire with his Force. And he's just like, you know what? I can't get Obi-Wan. Just let him go. It's okay. This stupid ass droid just picked him up. I can't do anything about that at all. You know, I can't force crush this droid. I can't throw my lightsaber. I can't do anything. So obviously I'm just gonna let him go. And these characters are just so stupid. You have a Star Destroyer fucking chasing one dinky ass little rebel ship, and it's like, oh, what are we gonna do? Obi-Wan just left in that other vehicle. Okay, we're gonna follow him instead. Motherfucker, you have TIE fighters on this piece of shit. Send those after him, or send the TIE fighters after the fucking rebel ship. Why is this hard? Like, why are you so stupid in this fucking series? And then the trench coat scene. How is this not a Saturday morning cartoon?
I just don't understand, like, they can't find this dude, and yet they can find Cassian in, like, 2 shakes of a guy's dick.
And then and meanwhile Obi-Wan is a bumbling fool in this beginning of the show.
But anyway, it's just like, whatever. I don't know. It's bad.
I mean, again, they're kind of interchangeable.
I agree.
Because at least Boba Fett had
The Mandalorian.
2 episodes about Mandalorian.
But that makes it worse. But that's my argument. But that's my argument. It makes it worse. The best episodes of that show were not even about that show.
Okay. But there are some redeeming factors there. At least you could
there was no redeeming episode. There was no redeeming episodes for Obi-Wan. I agree on that. I can concur with. But, all right.
I just want to throw a special shout out to Halo as well, because
I did watch.
I don't know if anyone actually watched.
I watched one episode.
The trailer, so
I watched one episode.
That's why it's a shout out, because didn't watch it.
Yeah, I already had that knocked down for me. So I watched one episode. That was horrible too. But all right, let's go to surprises though. Surprises of 2022, guys. Wow, I mean, I hope that did I just misclassify this show? I hope I didn't. Did Wednesday come out last year? I hope it did. Right?
Yeah. Technically, yes.
Yes, I know because I finished it.
People are
still
watching it now.
Oh yeah, no, I just realized. I'm like,
did release in 2022.
Thank you. For a second, I'm like, this is it was my surprise. We finished it last 2 weeks ago. We finished it 2 weeks ago. I am if you had told me at the beginning of last year that this was a show I would have watched all the episodes for and enjoyed it and really liked it, there's no chance I would have said you're nuts. But that is, it's got a great fun yet mystery, like whodunit.
Nancy Drew.
Yeah, like, and every time I'm like, for me, I love the mystery, but I usually solve them so quickly. And in this show,
humble brag,
it keeps making you think you didn't solve it, and it's like unbelievable, like to the point where it makes you try to start second guessing yourself, which is what they want you to do, and just do it all the way to the end until they show you the actual reveal. But it was the charm of it. Like I mentioned it on multiple episodes of the podcast. Like they did. I mean, surprise! I cannot believe they pulled this off like this. I was like, I had no idea Tim Burton was attached to this at all, but I'm thankful he was, because he's still got a great vision with this stuff. As a director, he still pulls it off great. And Christina Ricci was in it. She was fantastic. Even like the actress that played Wednesday. No, the actress that played Wednesday. I mean, incredible work. She did a fantastic job. Like, bravo. Like, I still find it jarring for Morticia and Gomez. But they both did a great job. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Louis, what's his name?
Is it Guzman?
Guzman. Jarring to not see Raul Julia there, and he's a completely different guy. He's a completely different style guy. He's really more of a creepy Gomez, but he did a great job. I mean, it was well done. Uncle Fester, I can't remember that guy's name. He was, I think he was in SNL for a while.
Armisen.
Huh?
Fred Armisen.
Yes, thank you. I was drawing blank. He did a fantastic job as Uncle Fester. I mean, everybody did a great job in the show. It was well done. Looked amazing. I love the visuals in this show. And they did a great job. Like, I just really enjoyed it. So,
I saw some of it secondhand. Ashley binged that.
Yeah.
Oh,
in like a day.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. So, really enjoyed that. All right, Corey, what was your surprise?
My surprise is Severance.
Surprise.
Severance, Apple Television. Like, it's crazy. Apple, like, that's even more surprise. Like, Apple TV's got actual good shows on it.
Great.
Like, they've been on a run.
Yeah.
And like, what makes it a surprise is, one, is a great show, obviously, but it's like such a departure from what you think Ben Stiller. He's the director. He directs most of the episodes, I believe.
Yeah.
I think maybe 2 he didn't direct, but he directed most of them. And Adam Scott, right? That's the
Adam
guy.
Scott. Yep.
You usually see him, and he's usually like a comedian-esque kind of jokey guy, and like in this show, it's a little more serious, a little bit more. I mean, there's some things that are funnier here and there, but not. It's not like joke like comedic funny, just like situational things. And but the psychological, like you had mentioned, like it's got that lost feeling almost a little
Yes.
bit.
Yep.
And yeah, it kind of harkens back to that a little bit, just like the mystery of things going on and how things unravel, and the performances are just so good. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the key is like performances in these shows that I'm going to talk about, in the future here.
Yeah.
But the performance is really a key into making the shows even better when there's some stuff that's not as good going on, but yeah, just the performances and make you believe in what's happening, how in the story and how it's unfolding. You want to see what's going on, what's gonna come next, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'll be talking about this one a little bit. So,
okay.
But I did want to mention honorable mention for mine was Cyberpunk for surprise.
Okay.
So maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Tony, what was surprise for you?
Mine was Rings of Power.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Wow. Good. That was that. Yeah. I mean, visually it looked amazing. I gotta say, like, holy hell.
That's the thing is, we talked about it a little bit on the Gamecast. You missed it, Corey. But talking about obviously Last of Us and stuff like that. And I made the comment that when you're throwing like $100 million per episode, I mean, you better look fucking incredible. And
Yep.
Rings of Power absolutely looked. I don't know the budget for it. I'm pretty sure it's expensive as hell. But it absolutely looks gorgeous. The costume, the set locations, the set pieces, everything like that. And to me, it was a surprise just because I think we all were skeptical of this when we first heard Amazon was doing this years ago and stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
And we all had like no faith because I think this was the first one. Like, I could be wrong here, but my memory says that this was the first thing that Amazon like announced. Like one of the first things Amazon announced to try to get people for
Yeah,
Amazon
big
Prime.
name. You got to get the big name. We're gonna do a television show. It's like
exactly like prestige TV kind of thing. And I think we all were doubters, because Amazon doesn't have like the best history with a lot of stuff.
I think what happened for this show is because it took so long to come out. We had Game of Thrones fall apart. Sword of Truth was another one that came out that was terrible, and The Wheel of Time all came out in the meanwhile of them making this show. And so, like, for me, that was like that knocked my interest down on this like crazy.
Because they basically colonial marines all those shows.
Yeah.
Make this one.
Yes. Yeah. But
I mean, going back to the show, it was just really good seeing this character that we know from the original trilogy and stuff like that, or the books, whatever you want to call it. Like seeing, and not just one. I mean, one of hers is the primary point of view, but you see others. And they just told a really good story. It gave that history to the series that we all love and enjoy, and it just felt good. Like the nostalgia is there, and I always like to say this in a good way. Like you see these things, you see these plot lines, you see some of the characters, and you're like, wow, like this is comfort food, kind of and stuff like that. But they still did their own thing. They're doing, plot lines. It's never like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, remember this thing? It's gonna be, Frodo's whatever, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, like I don't care where he got his handkerchief from. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like AKA like Princess Leia's blaster holster. Like that doesn't mean fucking shit to me. It's fucking accessory.
Brought it back in. Good job.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta brought it in. But yeah, Rings of Power. Pleasantly surprised.
Mike.
My surprise is what was the official name? It's a weird name. Norm Macdonald, Nothing Special.
Okay.
It's a surprise mostly because it existed. This was Norm Macdonald's posthumous last sort of special on Netflix where he's really, there's nothing to it. He's literally just talking to the camera in his apartment. Probably holed up from quarantine. Obviously, we know in retrospect he had cancer. And he just did a little. It's his last new material, so it's this weird sort of bittersweet experience watching it. It's funny, but also somber, and he does get into some of his darker things about living wills and stuff like that in there. And then right afterwards, they put on a lot of his peers talk about him after his 45 minutes on the special. They have Dave Chappelle, Letterman, and Adam Sandler, people like that. Molly Shannon, I think, too, from SNL. So it was an interesting little celebration of him, and obviously he was my favorite comedian, so it was a big surprise, and it was nice to see. An honorable that was it. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just one single thing. I have a few of those one single things because I didn't have a lot of long form TV this year.
Yeah.
I will say honorable mention though for surprise is Sonic Prime, which I got in under the wire. I don't think it's like great or anything. It's definitely for kids, but I watched it and it was a surprise just because it's a Sonic thing that's pretty good. Like a lot of his fiction is kind of cringy in my opinion, but this one's pretty good.
Cool. All right, guys. Let's get to our top list. Now this is our top 3 of 2022.
Top 3 of 2022.
We start with number 3, and now I'll kick us off on this list. So for me, this is the spot that I had the hardest time because I came down to 2, and I'm going to list my runner-up, and I feel bad listing Cobra Kai as the runner-up to making my top 3 list because I love that show. It's fantastic, but I ultimately went with, this is maybe surprising for some, Peacemaker.
Okay.
Because
I watched one episode of that.
I couldn't stop watching that show. Like, I couldn't stop. Like, I just loved...
Interesting.
I was actually laughing. I don't usually... When I'm watching something by myself, I'll like smile or if it's funny, but I was actually laughing at certain points in that show with the eagle. And just even like the intro is so memorable. James Gunn's style is so good in this show. And John Cena. Like... I mean, a character that I didn't care for much in Suicide Squad, somehow I really, really, really enjoyed in this show. And it was so good. It was so good. I cannot wait for a second season for this show.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
I tried to give it a chance to see if I would be able to binge it in time, but I watched the first episode and it was okay, but I didn't see it happening for me, like to get through it in time. So
no, the show gets great. I mean, it really does get. I mean, the first episode's it's a pilot. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's, but as you get into the show, it takes off. But yeah, I just loved. I loved everything out. I mean, even God, his sidekick in this. God, I can't remember. He's so he's hilarious. But it makes me very happy to have James Gunn take over the DC universe, to see what he can do with his style approach to things. Obviously he's running it, so I don't know how much input he's going to have on individual movies, but Kevin Feige does a good job with it. So we'll see what he can do in the DC universe. And I know there's a lot of flack he's getting for taking over from the mixed universe here. People are like want their old heroes back, but move on. It's time to embrace the new, and this is a great example of what he can do.
But here you go. Do you keep his Suicide Squad or not?
Yeah,
because this is firmly within that universe.
Sure,
you have Amanda Waller in there and everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. So, but definitely my third. It was really good. Corey, what was your number 3?
Well, this was either gonna be my surprise and Severance was gonna be number 3, or Severance was gonna be my surprise and this was my number 3, and it's Peacemaker as well.
Oh wow. Okay. All right then.
Yeah, no, I couldn't decide if I wanted them to be, because I didn't want to have them, again, double up here. We want to talk about more shows.
Fresh, yeah.
And yeah, Peacemaker surprised me almost just as much as Severance, just based off of it being a DC character, John Cena being not necessarily an actor. But I'd say he's doing really well in the acting chops there, and if you can take him out of knowing that he's a wrestler turned actor, I think he does a good job. And I would say that of like The Rock, Batista, and Cena, I think he has the best acting ability out of all 3 of them.
Wow.
Based on the fact I think he can be something other than Cena, whereas The Rock and Batista can only be who they are.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I don't think you're wrong there at all. You're right. So
I still love his delivery in the Jason here for the conversation, but in Bumblebee, because he plays the one character, he's like, "Is anybody else not concerned that they're called Decepticons?" It's like, yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I mean,
Peacemaker. I have to agree with all points you said there. Vigilante.
Vigilante. That's what it is.
Sidekick's name.
Yes, so good.
I had to look it up too while you were talking.
That was good.
I was like, oh yeah, what was his name? But yeah, everything about it is great. The dark comedy of it is good. The storyline is interesting. Even though they make it like, oh, it's the end of the world scenario, and you're like, what? Why are they calling in the Justice League type of thing? Like you have those questions, and then they're having those questions, so it's like kind of things that you're thinking about. They're talking about in the show as well, and then just the fact that it is a character from the Suicide Squad who was a villain who is now trying to be a better person. They use that part. They use that turn in who he was in Suicide Squad as like a lynch or a fulcrum or a turning point or cornerstone, whatever it is, for the show's premise of who he is now and where he wants to go as a person and as a hero, air quotes. So yeah, it's good, and then all side characters are really good in it too.
That's
and
what
it being
made the show
like
better.
mature, hard R type of show, they can definitely do a lot more.
Yep, definitely.
With the
gratuitous everything.
The mature nature of the character, not necessarily just gratuitous or anything.
There was a lot of blood, like and guts, explosions, shotgun stuff. Yeah, but they did a lot with that. So yeah, great. Tony, number 3.
My number 3 could have been my surprise as well, but this actually cracked the list. Don't like to slow roll you, but against everything I just said about Obi-Wan, Andor proved me wrong. Like totally.
There you go. There it is.
Totally was just like so down on Star Wars. I was like, nah, fuck this, fuck everything. Like I'm not interested in anything until Mandalorian came out. And against everything I thought, like listen to Jim's suggestion and other people online, just may
have overhyped it a little bit, but yes.
I was like, okay, yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's okay. Like it got me to watch it, which is important, and it was really good. I think we're talking about later, so I'll save.
Later, but yes. So there's some never more than 12. Love that part.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what was your number 3? No, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Muted?
Try it again. You weren't muted. It was
There's a
lagging.
lag, dude.
All right. My number 3 is a different James Gunn thing. It's another special, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Nice. That was good. It's really good. I watched it twice.
Yeah, it was it was a nice sort of compact, like 45-minute sort of mini movie, and just something different and worthwhile to watch during Christmas time, which is always good. It's probably one of the few things I actually watched this year, heading up towards it. I didn't really do that whole thing with everything. So yeah, and it's just more of those characters, and you get a little bit of a little fun time with Kevin Bacon. So I enjoyed it, and it's just a tightly made, like funny little thing that that's what he does with those characters. So it's pretty good. So I enjoyed it, and that's it.
This is what I got in my honorable mention if we give it out, because I did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, that was very, very fun. Like I said, I watched it twice, so I completely understand that. So cool. All right, number 2 for me. Corey's mentioned it already once before, maybe twice before now. Severance was number 2 for me. Not solidifying what my number 1 is at that point at all, but Severance. It could have gone back and forth with my final 2. Like I just I'll explain why Andor is my number 1, but Severance was.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've already teased it on here multiple times. Severance was so good, and again, like it was. I don't know if I call it a surprise because I heard it was so good from people, and I'm like, okay, I gotta check this out. But it met those recommendations. Like that was what's cool about it. Like I'm like, wow, it's like incredible. That whole, like, again, you mentioned it before, Corey, with like that Lost vibe where I'm like, what is going on? That's I love having that in that kind of a show. It's just like it's so crazy of what the fuck is happening. It's just like, this is great to have. Like I'm like, I haven't had a show like this since Lost. I really hope the coming seasons hold on. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, we know where Lost went, so that's the other thing.
But Adam Scott, if the whole cast, John Turturro,
Oh, that's why I was gonna. John Toro is so good.
Incredible, like incredible.
Yeah. He's always good, but like here is particularly
yes, he's always very good. And like I said, though, Adam Scott, not his normal chops of a drama thriller kind of role. But it's just I recommended it again last weekend. I was watching the football game and Nick was over here and he's talking about HBO Max. I'm like, it's Apple Plus has some incredible stuff. You have to check it out. Ted Lasso, and Severance is incredible. Two different kinds of shows, but Apple's got them both, and they're both amazing. And I strongly recommend watching both of those, like must watches for people who have Apple Plus. I think they're both must watches. Severance was so good. I just can't wait for the next season. I don't even know when it's coming. But because there's so many questions, and that's the fear.
That's the thing. They leave you wanting more. So
that's also the fear, though, because you're like, can they answer them? Can they appease the questions? Yeah. Can they appease the questions?
We're getting more. Just a matter, if they're gonna
from Lost.
Live up to the expectations.
Yeah, Lost never appeased those questions. But we'll see.
But cool. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. So.
I told you.
You're the one that recommended it. Yes, it's to me. Yes.
I think you'd like this, Jim.
Yeah. So.
And you're the only other person I know who had Apple Television at the time. I think.
Yes. Yeah. So. All right, Corey. What was your number 2?
Oh, my number 2 is I don't know if I'm assuming someone's gonna say this one, but it's Stranger Things 4. And
this is my number 2 as well.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So Stranger Things, it brought it back. I mean, it gave us back what we wanted from this show. Like I was like, it's getting old. Kind of like, all right, we've doing this before, and I don't necessarily care as much anymore. But it brought it back where we had a villain who is scary, who is intimidating, and had real danger. There was real danger to the characters that we know. And you've felt like, these characters, they may not make it. Some of these characters may not make it, and I don't know if I like this. And so it had that threat now where before, just like, everybody's fine. We're good to go, whatever.
I got that vibe, yeah.
And I binged this show. Like, it's the first part, I was like done in a weekend. Not like a week. I think one day, I was like, the whole Saturday into Sunday, I was like, I'm getting through this. And then the second one came out, and I was like, it's what, 2.5 hour movie, whatever it was. It's like, I'll just get this done as soon as possible. And it lived up to everything that I was hoping it would be, and brought it back and had great action. The only things I'd say, I wish they weren't as disjointed, some of the storylines, but I liked that we went in different places. We were in different locations and not just the same spot all the time. So, and hey, then some of these characters had some really great moments in it, and I'll let you two talk as well, Tony, because it's number 2 as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I share a lot of your same views. I mean, Stranger Things, the first season was awesome. I mean, surprise of the year, I think, probably for all of us that, first year. I know when Jim recommended it.
Yeah.
And, Stranger Things 2, I mean, it was okay. It was more of the same, maybe too much so. And 3, even though I liked 3 better than season 2, it did feel kind of like almost a little stale, where it's like, is this, has it run its course? Are we just milking this now because it's successful? But I'm glad we were proven wrong, with that doubt or that, negative feeling there, because season 4 was fantastic. I mean, the whole thing, part 1 or 2. I mean, even if it was just part 1 that released this year, I would have been like, it's still here, number 2. Like that. Because the overarching plot, like we're finally getting to getting the answers, getting the origin, the true origins of 11 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's coming together. Everything's culminating to a head here. And, like Corey said, this season was the season that really made us feel like, any of these characters actually are very vulnerable and bad things could happen to them at any point. And one of them it does. And one of them I would actually dare say is the TV moment of the year. I mean, just if we're going by social media presence, that even launched a particular song to new heights. unprecedented heights, out of the balloons like that, running up that hill. Just I think it's iconic.
And even the new character, like even that was Munson was his name. Eddie Munson was it?
Yep.
His performance was fantastic, and he was like all over like the socials and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with the horns. I mean, like people loved him, and the chemistry he had with the cheerleader character. I forget her name, but like they were like, yeah, we kind of regret killing them off now. It's like we had, hindsight, maybe we wouldn't have killed them off. Well, assholes and stuff like that. So whatever. But I mean,
one of the sorry, I didn't because I don't want to forget. One of the best scenes in this entire show. My favorite moments was the basketball game and the D&D match, and how
that was great.
Edited those. That was like such a great moment.
It was fantastic. Yeah, absolutely agree.
Cool.
So I was just so happy, and I can't wait for season 5 whenever we do get it.
Yeah. No, and the way it ends too is just quite ominous too, because like you're gonna end things on a nice. We won, like, but you didn't though. So it's like, what's happening now?
Yeah. All right, Mike, you're number 2.
My number 2 is not necessarily one of the better quality shows, but it's one of my favorites, and that's the first half only of Titans season 4.
What? What do you mean the first half?
The first half came out
in 2022.
During 2022. The second half hasn't come out yet.
But gotcha.
But no, I think it's about.
So can we put it like a little asterisk here? So if the second half tanks it, you could just we'll move it out. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, this first half of TV for you though is the best, second best thing you watched in 2022.
So
go on.
I can't take I get it. You can't take it away. You're right, but it could diminish it by making a bad second half. Is what I'm saying. So
probably. It's just the show is it's always. This is one of the shows in the DC, not DC universe, where I sort of appreciate that it's not all connected, because you have a very alternative take on a lot of things. For example, Lex Luthor is like 67 in this. He's old. Like Batman, you see, is like in his mid late 50s as well. He's nearly 60 too. And you have the Titans as people who are in their 20s maybe. There's actually the adult Titans who are like 20 to 30 maybe, like Dick and Starfire and Barbara was involved last year, not this year. But then there's like the actual teen Titans who you have like Raven and Beast Boy and them. And they're probably like 18 or whatever anyway. But this one, it's as this is probably the last season of this, it goes full circle. We have stuff tied in from the first season to this season. Actually, kind of similar themes to Midnight Suns. There's some destiny with some evil mothers and stuff, but so it's good to see it kind of go back, and we get a bit more character growth for Connor Kent. That's the cloned offspring of both Superman and Lex Luthor.
Superboy. About Young Justice?
No.
They've mixed it.
It's a lot of the same characters, yes.
It feels like deja vu.
But no, we're not in Mars forever talking without.
We don't have
Negan Young Justice
or whatever.
No. So no, it's just fun to see. It was a good combination, and I'm glad that if this was the only version of these characters that I'd get, I'd be mad about how deviated they are from what you would expect. But since it's not, I kind of like seeing it. I like this alternative take. It's almost like a future sort of take on them. So hopefully they stick the landing here, because it is, again, tying in stuff from the first season. But I really just enjoy the show's mix of action and those characters. So it was good.
Nice.
Cool. All right, guys, we've come to the point where we're at number ones for us for the year of 2022. Obviously, mine was spoiled earlier because I just said it. Andor was number 1 for me. I'm really glad to hear, Tony, you finished that show and stuck with it, because it's tough to describe like how good that second half of that show is. Like I didn't want to spoil it, like to overhype it, so I didn't want to say like you got to just watch these episodes. But right after I'll call it the heist to keep it vague for people that want to watch it still. Right after the heist, that show for me just was a nonstop. I had to watch it, and I thought that I got the finale. Like when it wasn't the finale.
I remember you talked about.
I was like, oh, it stuck the landing. It was fantastic. I'm like, and then I was like, wait, that's not the finale. There's 2 more episodes. Holy crap! So no, there's some amazing characters in this show. This is like the Star Wars that we all need, and it's amazing to say that about a prequel show. I do wish that they would do stuff like this for the more future universe here of Star Wars. Like the blueprint is there. Like this is a great style. This is new universes, new planets to see, new characters. There are no Jedi. I'll spoil that for people. It does keep it, and I like my Jedi. I do. But I want content that's based not on Jedi. Like I want that aspect of things. It's a huge universe, and so I'd love to have that aspect of things. Not to say that won't change in the next season, but I really did like that about this season so much. And what's crazy is it makes you like appreciate the character more for Rogue One. Like I felt Rogue One, people love that movie, and I'm like, I just never sat with me right. I just never remembered the characters. I couldn't remember their names. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, nothing was right about that movie for me, and except for the visuals of it, or like the last sequence. You know what I mean? Where this makes me like understand the world and what they had to build to get us to A New Hope, and like Rogue One's enhanced from that, and you also get to see like the true Empire as to why they really hate the Empire. Like you get that in this. And it's so I don't know. I just really love this this show, and it's like I said, Severance was fantastic. But as a Star Wars fan, as I mentioned on this podcast, you guys know me at this point. It had to be number 1. That's it. And like Tony said earlier, visually this was incredible. Like it looked great. How did Kenobi look as bad as it did when this show launched in the same year? And it was just
it's so night and day. Like I would understand if it maybe was like 1 or 2 episodes, but like it wasn't. It was the whole thing. It was the whole thing. Like, yeah. I would say you could compare any one episode of Andor and it looks better than the entirety of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, even the terrible flashbacks that they did, they still look better than So, but I absolutely love this show. Would strongly recommend it for anybody, especially if you're kind of like we're a Star Wars fan and you're kind of tired of the universe, especially after the last movie that came out. For me,
our disappointments too.
Yeah, I mean, Rise of Skywalker for me really knocked my Star Wars fandom down massively. I mean, I was collecting figures. I was into it with The Force Awakens, and I just got the wind knocked out of me with my love of Star Wars. And to have Andor come back in and get me hyped for Mandalorian again and stuff like that, I just it's so great it's good timing for it. It really was. Not that Mandalorian wasn't great before. It really brings more love into the universe for me, which is awesome. So, all right, Corey, what was your number 1?
Hold on, let me talk about.
I'm sorry. That's right. I apologize. Yes.
Hold your horses, buddy. Hold your horses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no. So Andor, I agree with what you say, and really, it's just incredible because, when I talked about what I want from Star Wars, this is absolutely up there with something that is different, right? Because there aren't any Jedi.
No.
There aren't any characters that are uber badass, taking on squadrons like Mandalorian, like Mando, stuff like that. This is really just the heart of the Rebel Alliance.
These are Joe guys. These are just some guys and girls that are just they're not great at fighting, but they're scrapping by.
And you get these characters, and you see their point of views, and you absolutely get their character motivations. You might not agree with them, but you understand where they come from, and I appreciate that. Even if I despise a character because of what they do or what they believe, as long as I can believe that is how that character would act in that moment, that is how that character would behave, or whatever, I think that's a sign of a great character.
Yeah.
And this series have that in spades. Even characters that only appear for 1 or 2 episodes. Shout out to what's his name from the prison?
Andy Serkis.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job.
I mean, that may be.
I hope he wins something for that.
That may be the best role I've seen him do. Like that might be the best role I've seen him play, and he's played some incredible roles.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just coming from like grassroots, like hey, just whatever. This is a story, and it starts off so meandering, where like
yeah, I know
one thing, just one little slip up, and then it's like it just snowballs into the like. Yeah, you're caught in some shit now, bud. Like that sucks, but that's life, kind of stuff. And the other thing I appreciated was what you said, Jim, was that you get to see why the Empire is evil, right? Not just the Empire blew up a planet, whatever, in A New Hope. It's the Empire just slowly crushing and squeezing people for everything that they have, and oppressing them. And the one character even says like, they just want you to become accustomed to this so that they can do worse stuff without the bat of an eye and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just fantastic. I would say it's almost hurt by the fact that like we saw Rogue One already.
Yeah.
Whereas like if things could have happened, where this had come out like a year, like either the year of or the year before Rogue One, like this would have elevated. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you don't know any things that are happening, but like just the consequences of what things are. It's just how it is. But it made a believer out of me. I will happily eat crow about that one and stuff like that. And
glad you stuck with it. I was glad you stuck with it. That was great.
Yeah.
Corey, number one.
Oh well, Tony hasn't mentioned it yet, so I'm assuming we're gonna be on the same wavelength here. But my number one is Cyberpunk 2077.
There you go.
Number one for me.
I'm glad I mentioned it as my surprise, but I made not my surprise, my runner-up surprise. But yeah, go on, guys.
Yeah. No, I was like, I watched it and I was like, this is like Netflix. First of all, Netflix on a roll with their animation because my number one last year was also an animated video game adaptation.
That's great.
With Arcane, and this is a video game adaptation. Different art style, obviously. I think Arcane is probably the best looking animation I've ever seen. Here, it's a much more traditional art style. We got with a well-known anime studio in Trigger doing the art, and they adapt the cyberpunk universe beautifully here. And this is a separate story than the game. It is different characters set in the same universe though, and you get an insight into some of the things going on. There is a cameo from a character that's in that universe that's a lot that people will know from the game and stuff. But overall, it's just a really great story about a kid and his struggles to survive in this city that just keeps beating you down, essentially. And it's the character moments for me that do it. It's like you have like this camaraderie between these characters that builds, and then the fallout of that when things don't go well, and the fact that there is like kind of a ticking clock on a lot of these characters that they know of.
Yeah.
And they can't really do much about.
I found that crazy, like not knowing anything about the universe, the world really. I was like, wow, this is like, they know this is happening. It's just, and it's just like part of life. It's so crazy. Yeah.
And just like in the way that the ultra powerful, control and manipulate the underprivileged and things like that. You just see the class system and how drastic difference there is there. But yeah, and you just see this kid, trying to be as optimistic and live his life to the best and just be the best person and friend and boyfriend or whatever to the people around him, and he just can't ever live up to it really, to what he wants to be. Like I think the people around him feel like he's living up, but he can't live with it, living up to it. And so just all that, and then the emotions at the end it just hits you. Like you go through all these moments with these characters and you feel for them, and then it just like you feel like, oh man, like some of the way these characters' stories go, how they leave off, it just hits you. It's in the feels.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Went into this kind of like just with the bare minimal expectations that, okay, this is a Studio Trigger. I liked their anime before, so I'll at least watch for the animation and stuff like that. I did not go into it expecting to be just like completely blown away from like just everything. And I really mean that, like everything. The characters, like Corey alluded, like they're great. I mean, even the side characters that you only see, a couple times. I mean, they're memorable, they're likable or hateable. I mean, don't we all like to hate a good like either villain character or just an annoying douchebag because you have those in video games and stuff like that. And like the way I haven't even played Cyberpunk 27, but like the way they brought what is it, Night City or
yeah, it's pretty sure it's Night City
to life. It's just awesome. Just seeing all this stuff, and I mean they even went out of their way to like really include locations from the game that people would recognize. And
music from the game as well.
Music from the game. I mean, I know we just talked about Stranger Things season 4, but I mean, I would say actually for me personally, I think the songs in this were a bit more heartfelt, touching to me, just personally, because like
the pairing of what you're seeing and the emotions you're feeling that the song entices, yeah.
Yeah, to the point where like I have it on my like YouTube playlist and it like comes up and I'm just like, oh, okay, like shit, we're doing this. All right, yeah, like let me get sad for a couple minutes here and stuff like that. But just absolutely incredible show. Glad it got the recognition it deserved. Another win, for Netflix and expanding their anime collaborations and stuff like that. So you trigger, probably more on the map, even after last year having done Star Wars Visions and stuff like that. So excited for the future of that studio, and props to CD Projekt Red for maybe turning around the franchise, because honestly boosted their game. Got the highest player count, surpassed even Witcher 3's concurrent player count. So it really gave that game and franchise a huge second win, even better than the launch. So,
and it helps that it's more playable now.
Yeah, and it does, and it makes me want to play this game. I'm just holding out on the DLC because I think that's
get the all in.
You get all the quality of life, the bug fixes, the glitches, plus the DLC. That because I don't know, I just personally, it's hard for me to go back to a game, when it's like a small sliver of DLC, because I'm just like, like whatever. Like if I could all play it at once, then great for me.
So, and that's why Fallout 3 for me was so incredible, because I had everything.
Had everything.
Yeah. No, I have to say, if you watched it in the original Japanese, it's great. Yeah, or the American, the English voice acting was fantastic.
Yeah, I watched it in English. Yeah.
I actually liked it better when I watched that time, because with Japanese, I'm not listening to the inflections as much. I don't understand the inflections and the cadence and as much and the accents in it. But with the English, I can get the accents and I can understand, like, the characters feel more unique. And so it's
I mean, obviously I don't know the show in detail. Are any of the characters meant to be Japanese? Because I think they're supposed to be all speaking English in like a redone Los Angeles, basically, which is what Night City is. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they're specifically. I mean, there was a Japanese-inspired faction.
Yeah, I know that, but
other than that, no, I don't think they're necessarily.
So
no, this is one of the few that if you watch even English dub, you're getting the full experience. It's not like,
I loved it. Yeah,
it's not like an old anime where like the lip sync is just terrible. Like they got like the cheapest voice actors they could. They don't, you're not gonna get like some Bronx accent out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
No, it was great, and you got big names too, like Gio. What's his name?
Giancarlo Esposito.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
Big names. What's his name?
Yeah, well, it's the guy that it's like people that you don't necessarily see. It's like bigger names. They're not voice actors. They're not known voice actors. Being a voice actor. So.
Yeah. All right. Mike, your number one.
My number one we talked about a bit already. That's Stranger Things season 4.
Nice.
Like we said, this definitely was a surprising comeback for me. I actually liked the previous seasons in descending order. I thought I go 1, 2, 3. I thought by 3 I was just kind of over it. I didn't really I wasn't even that excited about this going forward, because I'm just like, these kids are old. They've played this out. They did the same thing. They had their, pet Russian die in the previous season. You were supposed to care, and I'm like, ugh. But then, they went back to the beginning. And they sort of fleshed it out. And this was a darker season. They had the child actors are older, where to the point where it's not as disturbing to put them in real harm's way as it might have been before, because in the earlier seasons, you're like, none of the kids are going to get hurt for real. But now you're like, okay, they're old enough where they could die. And some of the characters that were underserved in the previous seasons are the focus on this. You get a lot more with Lucas. You get a lot more, obviously, with Max, even though she was a bit in season 3. But again, I didn't really like what they did with her in season 3. But it's just, yeah, you get, you just bring it back, and then it's, just a full cinematic sort of experience over the course of a lot more than a movie time, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's the idea of what that is. I mean that's why that's why it's impressive. Like even like the finale was like 2.5 hours long. And just like, but it was a great. The whole thing was such a great saga. So, and that's what you have to call it. That season was a saga. Yeah. So, but
it brought me back to it. I really was kind of down on it, but yeah, it was just. Well, there's very little I could. Other than maybe the basketball team people being a little broadly written, I can't really compare. I really don't mind pretty much anything else that happened, and everything seemed pretty good to me. So I'm very curious about how it ends now. I'm back on board. They did it.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Mission accomplished, season 4.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right, guys. And that is our top movies. Our TV shows. Those are top TV shows of 2022, and our worst, or disappointing and surprising. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. It's always a lot of fun to go over this stuff. Like I said, this year's going to be amazing. We got anticipated episodes coming out, most anticipated stuff for this coming year for movies, TV shows, games. So stay tuned for all of that great stuff. We also have some bonus rounds coming up soon. Once again, we're live streaming on Twitch Tuesday night starting at 8 o'clock. So please join us when you can. And if you can't catch us live, we are on YouTube the following day and forever. Those episodes stay there forever. So subscribe to both channels so you get notified as soon as we either go live or when those episodes become available. And that's going to do it for us, guys. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this stuff. We are out.